much to talk about in boxing too. We've missed quite a lot since the last time you were here. I know the thing that's been causing the most buzz in boxing right now has been the Crawford-Spence thing. You've obviously had a lot to say about that. So as far as like the transparency and the whole thing going on with all that, what do you make of Crawford-Spence?
Well, there's no Crawford-Spence. To have the two words together is ridiculous, to be honest with you. Um, the best way to put it is that this is an opinion I have. I've only talked to Terence Crawford once in my life. It was with a bunch of people, and it was in Fresno at a restaurant at a weigh-in that he was not fighting, and one of Bomac's fighters was fighting.
Okay.
And to be perfectly frank with you, I don't know him well enough to form where something could come out of his mouth or say I know him well enough that this is what he's saying. But this is my opinion. My opinion, he doesn't trust Al Heyman, and he wanted transparency, and he wanted a veto on expenses. And if your only source of income is the percentage of net profits that you're being awarded with, which is rewarded with, which is 35%, you are entitled to those things. And if you don't get those things, you shouldn't fight. I mean, you're setting yourself up to get fucked.
Yeah.
And it's who would do that? Now, just to let everybody know that everybody's missed here. Some of the mental midget, I call them Earl sexuals, the mental midgets out there, they're named the Earl sexuals.
A lot of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of those. What they've missed is this. He hired one attorney to get the fight done. The attorney didn't get the fight done. He went out and hired a second attorney to get the fight done, unrelated to the first one. In other words, the second one had no association with the first attorney. Okay, zero. Okay, he literally went out and got a second attorney. The second attorney comes back and says to Terence, they're not trying to make this fight. Okay, then days later, Floyd goes on Fight Hype, okay, and announces to the world that they're not fighting, and maybe they'll fight next year and stuff like that. And he's Al Heyman's partner, and he's
pretty much,
for PBC, and I mean, when Terence heard that, that's when he hightailed it out of there. Okay, now he already had a fight in place through BLK. They had been talking about it. BLK Prime. They've been talking about it since June. But he had told the CEO of BLK Prime, the only way I'm not taking the Crawford fight is he doesn't fight. Then I'll take your fight. But there was no deal made in advance or anything like that.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that because I'm glad you're saying that because a lot of people, most people, they say, oh no, well Crawford was doing this the whole time and the negotiations were fake, and
Crawford put that opportunity on ice until he told the other guy, until it's apparent the other fight's not happening, this is going to be on hold. And it was always there in his back pocket, but he wasn't negotiating. The negotiation did not take place until after the winning call. He knew who the fight was because BLK told him, if this is who you're going to fight, if you're going to fight for us, this is who you're fighting. And the reason why was because that fighter brings in additional TV revenues called the UK, because that's where he's out of. Okay, so it only made sense, and he's a top 10 contender. You didn't have to beg the WBO to put him in the rankings. He was already there, and it just fit. It was a great fit for everybody. In the meantime, is all these Earl sexuals and LDBCers and Haymanites and everything else, they've jumped on poor Terence, and it's like, guys, get a life. Okay, the guy's getting millions of dollars. Okay, he told, by the way, another thing is Crawford told Heyman, if you can't get the fight done, I'm fighting this year no matter what. He warned him, and he warned Spence.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the same thing. Do you think maybe like Spence and Heyman, their arrogance kind of backfired? Because for years we've heard like, well, I'm the A side, I'm the big fish. You got to take the 70-30, 80-20.
No. What happened really was, Okay, they offered him no guarantee. They offered him 35%, and it backfired because they didn't think he would take it. And he jumped at it, so he pulled their bluff, and he was willing to fight and pull their bluff. Okay, he was that confident. So these LDBCers, Earl sexual Hamanites, they can think whatever they want to think. I'm not here to change their opinion. I'm just here to explain to everybody what actually did happen.
Okay. I know you mentioned the point about the UK television rights, which is why the fight made sense for Crawford. But then what about people who say like,
no, the fight made sense for the promoter.
Okay, for the promoter.
Right.
Why not go the route of fighting maybe a better opponent such as a Jaron Ennis or a Virgil Ortiz? That these guys are ranked higher than Avanesyan.
Why would anybody do that?
Because it's a great fight.
Why Crawford? You forgot Crawford's a businessman. These fighters are in business. Now you're speaking from a fan standpoint. If that fight's to get made, you're talking about a fight with three times the value total to all the fighters involved, 2.5 times let's see. But yeah, it's a much bigger fight. It would take about 4 months to get set up. They couldn't set that fight up in 6 weeks, 7 weeks. Okay. So that's another reason. Okay. So all good reasons. But also, why the challenge? He doesn't have to fight him. Let him go the IBF route. Let him get a title, just like Spence told Crawford. Oh, you get a title. We'd be fighting. We'd be unified. Well, then have him go. Then have Ennis go get a title. He's sitting in no man's land. The IBF called a mandatory already.
Nah, I agree with that. It's just a question I wanted to answer because that was my first thought when I heard Avanesyan. I'm like, well, why not? Why not go fight Boots or Virgil?
Well, okay. Well, one would want millions, and one's getting way less than $1 million, and there's foreign TV rights involved as income. Well, what kind of income does Jaron Ennis bring overseas? Not a dime.
No, he doesn't. But
Right.
What about like I know at the WBC recently that they stated that they said that Virgil Ortiz was a mandatory because I forgot what fight it was. Mauricio Sullivan got into it with somebody. I can't remember who it was right now, but he said that Virgil Ortiz was the WBO mandatory, so they couldn't order a certain fight. So, like, do you know anything about Virgil Ortiz being Crawford's WBO mandatory? Is that really?
He is. He'll be the mandatory when the mandatory. There's a misunderstanding about mandatories. A big misunderstanding.
Oh, I know.
Okay, you become a mandatory based on the time. So when it gets to be, he has 18 months to defend against the mandatory. So 3 months before that, they'll call for the mandatory by a certain date. The mandatory is normally the number one contender 99% of the time. If the number one turns it down, then you go to number two. That's what happened last year when Ortiz didn't want to fight. It was Porter who became the mandatory. So a mandatory is time. Okay,
yeah,
so
absolutely.
Okay, so that's a big, always been a big money. You can be a number one contender, not be a mandatory, but when the time comes, you become the number one mandatory contender.
Okay. I know with